Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shade and Shit Talking Podcast. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you guys for tuning in. Now, this episode is brought to you by the fine folks down at Black with No Chaser, where we are 100% unapologetic, 100% uncut, 100% all about our people. Now, this episode it'll cover a wide range of topics, a wider range than what I normally cover, in my opening salvo. Now, we had quite a few things to go on this week. None more important, in my opinion, than the midterm elections. And there was a lot of bullshit going on in the state of Georgia, North Dakota, and Florida. It's always some shit in Florida when it comes to an election. Always. I will also talk a little bit about another white guy has shot up another venue. We have another incident of domestic terrorism right here within our borders. Never mind the quote-unquote invasion that Orange Foolie is talking about coming from Mexico. No, we have more problems with the fools on this side of the border. So this week was midterm elections, and the Democrats won the House, and the Republicans kept a hold of the Senate. Now this thing with the Democrats winning the House, It's pretty big. Pretty big. It has a lot of implications that will be far-reaching across every spectrum of politics. And basically, IQ 45's his free ride from Congress is over with. It is completely over with. I hope he got his goddamn running shoes on or his boxing gloves on, because this motherfucker is about to be in for a fight over these next 2 years. Investigations, legislative fights, possibly impeachment. So this is what people have been talking about since the debacle of 2016, and here we are. With the House being controlled by the Democrats, them having a majority, it allows them to launch subpoena-powered investigations into old Donnie's finances. It allows them to dig into the Russian interference. It allows them to dig into administration ethics scandals. And I mean just so much more. So much more. And they can even demand his long concealed tax returns that lying motherfucker been hiding since they goddamn won. Now, we all know that he's a charlatan and a used car salesman, so the Democrats have to be very careful, because he can use this to his advantage come 2020. And how he can use this is by trying to work with the Democrats, and by doing so, first of all, it won't be an altruistic gesture. He will only be doing it so he can tout to his rabid idiot fan base that he's willing to work with the other side. He can use that shit to his advantage. So they really need to watch out for that. But with him being the way he is and loves confrontation and try to be a bully, I really don't see that happening. Plus, I just don't see how they could trust his ass with anything. And speaking of trust, we shouldn't trust any of them. Left wing, right wing, they all part of the same corrupt bird. So y'all know what it is. But the most pressing, the most imminent consequence of the Democrats having a House is that, like I said earlier, investigations on top of investigations that can make his life a living hell. A living hell. You have, for instance, the House Intelligence Committee Chair, Representative Adam Schiff. He's already made it clear when he was the minority, that he wanted to open a more aggressive Russian investigation. You had House Ways and Means Chair Representative Richard Neal, who has been mentioned as wanted to get Trump's tax returns. You had House Foreign Affairs Committee Rep Elliot Engel talking about investigating Trump's Saudi Arabia policy in the wake of that guy getting killed at the embassy. You got House Judiciary Committee Chair Gerald Nadler will be looking out for inappropriate interference from the Justice Department, which we all know that's some shit. He just fired Jeff Beauregard Sessions and replaced him with a lackey, a yes man, to try to curb this whole Russian investigation. So the Democrats will be on his ass at every single turn, and I, for one, am glad. They should be. Also, the Democrats will have more of a say when it comes to legislation. Because they are the House majority, that means that the Republicans can no longer pass a single bill unless the Democrats agree to let them do it. So they got to answer to every question the Democrats may have. That's very important. Where it can work out bad is that if we have the wrong goddamn Democrats who are only worried about their self-interest and not their constituents, which, like I said earlier, left wing, right wing, same corrupt bird. That's why we have to hold all their asses accountable. Every last single one of them. Now, enough about Orange Turd. I'm going to talk a little more about the goings-ons of the midterms. We had a lot of history made the other day. For instance, we had the first Muslim women elected to Congress. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. We had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's the youngest woman elected to Congress up in New York's 14th district. She beat an incumbent, so that was huge, very huge for progressives. You had Deb Haaland and Sharice Davis. They are the first Native American women ever elected to Congress, which is huge. We also had Jared Polis. He's the first openly gay governor elected. We had Miss Queen Ayanna Pressley. She is Massachusetts' first black congresswoman ever. She ran uncontested and became the first black congresswoman. We also had Veronica Escobar Sylvia Garcia, Texas's first Latina congresswoman. You also had, and a lot of us didn't know about it because it's a territory, but you had Lou Leon Guerrero became the first female governor of a U.S. territory down in Guam. So there was a lot of history made. There was a lot of moves made by women of color, which, shows the progress somewhat of this country. But black women are still very, very, very marginalized, even though they are the most educated, the most hardworking segment of the human population here in America. But they are still marginalized and treated highly unfairly. Now, speaking of a superior black female getting treated unfairly, that brings me to the state of Georgia. And that whole situation in Georgia is really, really fucked up. So, and you've heard me talk about her numerous times on the podcast. You've seen her being talked about on the Black with No Chaser page. And I'm talking about Miss Stacey Abrams, Mississippi's own Miss Stacey Abrams. Now, she's running for governor of the state of Georgia. And right now, as of this recording, that race is heading to a runoff because it was so much shadiness, so much nonsense being done by the Republican side that there's no other choice. Now, first and foremost, let me just say, all of that could have been avoided if the highly concentrated areas of black people in Georgia, Atlanta, Fulton County, and all of that got out and voted like they should have. We probably wouldn't even be talking about this, but that's neither here nor there. But you had so many problems that was going on there that you can't ignore it. Now, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitutions, there were machines in at least 4 voting locations in Gwinnett County that temporarily went down that caused voters to resort to using paper ballots. You had that. You add that to the fact that you had other issues that extended long lines at the polling locations, with some voters waiting more than 4 hours just to vote. You add to that, you had machines that was meant for these areas, these black areas, not having power cords, some not even showing up. Now, all of that points to one thing and one thing only, and that's voter suppression. What they were and are attempting to do is disenfranchise black people in Georgia. They were resorting to all types of shit to keep black people in Georgia from voting. Now, you also had, and this was before the vote took place, Brian Kemp, who was Stacey's opponent, also Secretary of State of Georgia, who oversees elections, including his own, which I honestly feel is a direct conflict of interest. I mean, think about it. You're not going to expect the motherfucker to go against himself, especially a white man going against a black woman. Do you honestly think he wants to be that one to lose? But anyways, he threw away over 50,000 write-in votes, I believe. That's the number, 50,000, with over 70% of those being black people of color. And he did this with the most arbitrary reasonings. Like, he threw them out for like a missing hyphen. Shit like that. Like, come on, man. If the names are the same and only thing's missing is a hyphen, you know damn well that's that person. I mean, seriously. So you have that, and then you had stuff like over in Fulton County, voters reported that there was a limited number of voting machines. There was one polling location in particular over in Atlanta's Pittman Park Recreation Center that had just 3 machines. 3 machines now. Like how do you have that type of shit going on in an area with hundreds of thousands of people, man? Like how? Now, I'm not too familiar with the Georgia landscape, but I have yet to come across a single problem like this in the predominantly white areas. And we had people sending us stuff, inboxing us stuff over at Black with No Chaser all fucking day in different urban black areas of Georgia and Florida. All day. So we all know what's going on. And I sincerely hope that this does make it to a runoff and people get their asses out and vote and get him out the way. Same thing in Florida. you had a lot of the same issues going on in Florida. There was a story broke yesterday morning that there were tens of thousands of votes found in a damn truck just parked somewhere over in Florida. Like, come on, man. And supposedly these votes came, again, from predominantly black urban areas. So you, not only is Stacey fighting Brian Kemp over in Georgia, then now you have Ron DeSantis screwing over Andrew Gillum. But I will say that he had some help. There was a post polls survey that came out that we saw, and it was very disheartening to see the amount of black people that on this exit poll voted for Ron DeSantis. It was very disheartening to see the amount of Latina and Cuban people who voted for Ron DeSantis. Now, keep in mind that this guy is a 100% Trump disciple. This is the same guy who has a problem with working across party lines, who thinks that the only way to get shit done is to kiss the ring and kiss the ass of the orange fool in office. This is the same guy that right now is the winner in Florida, which, by the way, also I believe will be going into contested territory, which it should. There's a bunch of bullshit going on in Duval and Broward counties. So, people, just all this stuff going on is the reason why we at Black with No Chaser, reason why we here at Shade and Shit Talking talk about how important it is to vote. Now, I'll be honest. My younger days, I was one of the ones like, man, fuck voting. It don't matter. My vote don't count. My vote means nothing. But I was also young, foolish, and uneducated about the things that's going on around me. See, I let the idea of the federal elections, cloud my thought process. Because right now, I'm of the mindset that local and state means a lot more than federal to me. A lot more. And, you look at the area that you live in, there's no improvements to the streets. There's no improvements to public facilities, parks and recreations and shit. Things of that nature. You help that by supporting candidates from those areas who are from the people and for the people. You put them in those positions to help their communities. Same with circuit court judges and county judges and sheriffs and circuit clerks and all of that shit. DAs, city council, mayor. See, people need to understand that those local elections affect you and your everyday life. If you got a mayoral candidate who's from the area, who truly loves the area, who's for everybody, not just a certain segment, then that trickles down to who he appoints as fire chief, who he appoints as police chief. So then he gets a good, upstanding person at police chief. That affects who he hires as officers, which officers are promoted from within. See, it's all a chain reaction. It's all a chain reaction. Like I look at my hometown, and there's a brother on the city council. He was caught out in his ward just picking up paper on his own, nobody else. One of my partners filmed him picking up paper, cleaning up his ward. That's a man who cares about his people, cares about the job that he was elected to do. That's what you need. That's why voting matters. And speaking of which, there were a lot of memes going around from some of these photep, fake woke people on that bullshit, man. Listen, if you don't believe in voting, that's your business. I ain't telling you what to do when it comes to that. But I am saying you are absolutely positively wrong for dogging the people who do vote. You are absolutely wrong for trying to curb those people who are trying to use the one voice that our ancestors fought for to make a difference. If you don't want to participate, fine. But when the right people get there and shit start to turn around, don't try to enjoy the spoils of war. Take your ass back to your goddamn hole and be miserable over there. Especially my hometown people. Some of my folks back home, Harrisburg, Mississippi. Now, we grew up in the shadow of in the shadow of a local civil rights icon, a legend. A man who gave the ultimate price for us. We grew up and played at that park with his namesake damn near every day. We played basketball, Little League Baseball, Pony League Baseball at Vernon Damer Park. And that shit is just very disheartening to hear my people who have seen his work, seen the fruits of his sacrifice, and still say fuck it. I ain't gonna just keep going. All I'm gonna say is that this is very important. Electing the right people is very important. Using your voice to elicit change, incite change is very important. And do not take that shit for granted, man. Do not. Cause I'm gonna tell you, when those local laws, when those city and county ordinances, when those fucked up streets start disrupting your life, when you have a overzealous district attorney and overzealous judges trying to throw black people away with no feeling, don't say shit. When they grab your cousin and give him more time than what they gave Billy across town for the same charge, don't say shit. Don't say a goddamn word, because you should have voted. You should have got your ass out and voted for the right people, because that shit matters. And for those of you who say, your vote don't count, you should really think about some things, because a lot of good things came out of this voting the other day. A lot. Over in Louisiana, they voted to end non-unanimous jury verdicts in felony cases. That takes effect January 1st, which means if somebody go to trial, that shit must be unanimous. One person can dissent and they ass to still go to prison. Angola is lined with bodies who shouldn't be there because of that bullshit. That matters. Over in Florida, even though they fucked up the whole Gillum situation, some good did come out of Florida. They voted to end felony disenfranchisement, and they restored the right to vote to 1.5 million Floridians. And I'm willing to bet you, out of that 1.5 million, a huge majority of those are black people. Willing to bet you that. Florida also passed the Amendment 11, which allows the legislature to apply new criminal laws retroactively. So don't tell me that shit don't matter. Over in Alabama, the voters in Alabama voted to ban sheriffs from pocketing tax money that's meant to feed inmates. So you already got guys that's in jail, guilty or not, that's not the point. But they're still human beings, and these sheriffs are starving them out to pocket that money. They buying big houses and boats and shit. And I'm willing to bet you a huge majority of those in those Alabama jails are black. So please, for those of you who say voting doesn't matter, this country will never change, it will change. And a lot of people's lives were positively affected because of the votes that went on a couple days ago. So when someone doesn't have a reason to vote, or feel like they vote don't count, or they vote don't matter, you tell them this stuff. These examples I gave you, you show them the bigger picture. You educate yourself, you educate them, you take actions, and when it's time to vote again, both of y'all get y'all ass out there and vote to keep making this positive change. So, in other news of the nation, we have once again another mass shooting by one of these white domestic terrorists. And I know a lot of people who may be listening to this who view these not as acts of terrorism, but as acts of a single person doing whatever. But no, these people are fucking terrorists. And this has become more and more the norm in America. It has. So the other day, over in Thousand Oaks, California, there was a shooting at a bar, a dance bar, where 13 people were killed, including the gunman, including a 29-year police veteran who was on his way out. And as always, we get the obligatory thoughts and prayers from Congress, from those in charge. And what's so disturbing about that idea of thoughts and prayers is that the killer himself acknowledged that. He made a mockery of that. Like, he made Facebook posts during his rampage. Okay? And in one of them he says, and I quote, "I hope people call me insane." Laughing emojis. Wouldn't that just be a big ball of irony? Yeah, I'm insane, but the only thing you people do after these shootings is hopes and prayers, or keep you in my thoughts every time, and wonder why these things keep happening. Now, if that doesn't scream that we need stricter gun laws, we need more stringent gun laws in this country, I don't know what to tell you. Now, your orange president, undermined what Obama did, trying to keep guns out of the hands of those who are mentally ill. This guy had mental problems. I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt and saying he was insane or anything like that. But he had some type of mental deficiencies. Because back in April, the police responded to a house that he lived in, responded to a disturbance because this same dude was acting irate and acting irrationally. And a mental health specialist with their crisis team met with him, and that person felt like that he might be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. But after speaking with him, they decided not to detain him under laws that allow for temporary detention of people with psychiatric issues. And just a mere 7 months later, it was a mass shooting, another mass shooting, and he murdered 12 innocent people. 12. While making Facebook posts in the process. Now, he shot the bouncer outside. The survivors of this shooting said that it started outside. He was dressed in black. He was wearing glasses. He shot the security guard. Then he shot a young woman working at the counter just inside the door before he opened fire on other people. Now that's insane. Now the police recovered a .45 Glock that the dude legally purchased. It was at the scene. He used an extended magazine to do his shooting. And come to find out, he was a frequent visitor to that bar. His friends said they used to go there together. Said he really liked it. So, we constantly pick up the newspaper, turn on the TV, and we see these shootings. Now this dude was a former Marine who, by all accounts, was a good person, which it's always that account, when it comes out after they've committed some type of mass shooting. But you can't help but wonder what the fuck is going on. What is going on in the minds of these people where this just constantly happens? Constantly. Now, according to the Gun Violence Archive that I found, this was the 307th mass shooting in 2018. And if you look at the major ones that have happened, they all have been white guys. Probably 98% of them. And they all have claimed to have some type of mental deficiency, some type of disorder. So why or how are they getting these guns legally if they have these mental problems? How are they not getting flagged with background checks? There should be, waiting periods for everybody to receive guns. You should not be able to just go decide you're going to buy a goddamn gun and that's it. Because the things that we're seeing today is unprecedented. And it's insane. But what's even more insane is that the nation, the media don't talk about this in the way that it should be talked about. They don't talk about this. They don't frame it in the way that it should be framed. We have a problem. We have a domestic terrorist problem. We don't see that on TV. Meanwhile, all we hear is the invasion, quote unquote, invasion of America from a migrant caravan coming from Mexico. That's what we hear about. These people are invading the country. But then this shit happened, thoughts and prayers. So, I just don't understand this. I just don't understand how there have been nearly as many U.S. mass shootings as days in 2018. What day is this? 312th, 313th day of the year? Somewhere up in there? These people talk about, Muslims. They talk about Mexicans. They talk about, all of them. I am not worried about a single person coming across that border. I'm not. I'm more worried about these average looking, normal looking white guys walking into establishments, murdering people with no remorse, with no feeling, just murdering people. You can't go to a concert. You can't go to a video game tournament. You can't go to school, multiple schools. You can't go to a bar. That's what the fuck I'm worried about. But it's the Muslims, it's the Mexicans, it's the black people. That's the major problem. No. Until this country accepts what it is and looks at that shit head on, looks in the mirror, we will continue to have these problems. And there will continue to be deflection and pointing to the Mexicans and the Muslims and the black people and fucking thoughts and prayers. Y'all need to wake up, man. The major problem, the main problem is within. Y'all. It's not us. Yeah, we have violence, and I know they talk about, what about Chicago? What about this? Well, yeah, true enough, there is violence. And people who are within the same vicinity with people who look like them are naturally more prone to have acts of violence betwixt themselves. That's just what it is. It's human nature. But we just don't go around just randomly murdering 12, 13, 57 people, shooting up schools. If a black kid shoot at a school, he went and shot that person he mad at. 9 times out of 10. Not the whole goddamn school. Y'all got to get it together, man. Stop all this bullshit. Stop all this deflecting. Stop all of this false narrative and look at the real problem. These white domestic terrorists that's murdering left and right with no remorse. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around for this week's episode of Colonizing Nonsense. My first colonizer nonsense moment takes me to my home state of Mississippi. Headline: Hospital fires employee who wore controversial shirt to Mississippi poll. Yikes. Now, I'm pretty sure you all have seen it because we posted it on Black with No Chaser, and it's been floating around the internet all the week more than them goddamn Dexter memes. So there's this guy, Clayton Hickey, and by the way, his redneck name matches his redneck personality. So there was a picture of this guy, and he's wearing a t-shirt with the Confederate flag, which is already bad enough. But to add to that, he has a noose draped in front of this flag with the words Mississippi Justice attached to it. Well, guess what? Your dumb hick ass just got fired. Now, first of all, his ass should not have been allowed to even be in the polling place wearing that bullshit. But Mississippi always goddamn behind. Their law doesn't strike that down. The only law that they have is you cannot wear any type of shirt promoting a political party or a candidate, which is some straight bullshit. Because what this motherfucker did was straight up voter intimidation. But it is what it is. So anyways, he was an EMT, I believe, and he lost his job. But that's not even the most fucked up part of the situation. This guy was a former police officer. Yes, I know, shocking. A police officer doing some racist shit. I know, threw me off too. Now, he was let go because he was caught in the car with a 17-year-old girl and alcohol. So, let's recap. Not only is he a racist piece of shit, he's also a goddamn child molester. R. Kelly somewhere rubbing his hands like Birdman. That's a goddamn shame. And what even makes it more fucked up was the news tried to talk to his neighbor, and they refused to call this guy what he is. They was even making excuses. One even went so far as to say he's always finding himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, this motherfucker's always doing wrong. There's a huge goddamn difference. Come on, white people. We got to do better. My next colonizer nonsense moment takes me to Houston, Texas. Headline: Firefighter loses job after posting about pinto bean feeders at the border. Wow. A part-time firefighter in Texas has been fired after an incendiary Facebook post. Earlier this week, the guy's name is Chris Bush, by the way. He posted this message on Facebook, and I quote, "We should buy deer feeders, fill them with pinto beans, put them on the border, and make a new hunting season. I wonder how many Texans will buy that hunting license and how many tags we would be allowed." What the fuck? So, this racist piece of shit says they should put pinto beans at the border and murder innocent people trying to cross. What kind of bullshit is that? I mean, that's just totally uncalled for and insane. Now, the fact that this guy's a firefighter living in Texas, which is heavily populated by Mexicans and Latinos, would think this way only shows that they don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves and the ones that look just like them. And that's fucking crazy. Now, this dude worked for the Westfield Fire Department, the Bel Air Fire Department, and the Harris County EMS. And they released the following statement: said, Wednesday morning, we became aware of an inappropriate and offensive social media post by a part-time firefighter. Upon learning of that post, we took immediate and appropriate action, and the individual is no longer employed with the city of Bel Air. He shouldn't be employed by any fucking body. It's people like this that I hope really and truly suffer for the bullshit that they say, because they really mean that bullshit. If he could murder innocent Mexicans coming across the border, I'm willing to bet you $1 to a dime that motherfucker would. Fuck him, piece of shit. My final colonizer nonsense moment takes me to North Carolina. And man, this shit is wild. Headline: South Park Susan turns herself in to police after video shows her harassing women in an apartment parking lot. Wow. So, this woman named Susan Westwood, who's been dubbed South Park Susan, got her ass taken to jail. Now, a video came out last week that showed her harassing these two sisters that's waiting in the parking lot for AAA at an apartment complex. Now, she was charged for assault and threatening these women in this video. First of all, listen, y'all don't own every goddamn thing. That's number one. Number two is, mind your goddamn business. Y'all just gonna keep on running up on people until your ass get knocked the fuck out. Which, honestly, they should have flatlined this bitch. I know I would've. So, in this video, she's harassing these ladies, messing with them. She goes on to say that she was white and she was hot and beautiful. Have y'all seen this bitch? She looked like a long-haired Uncle Fester. No bullshit. So she went on to proceed to tell these women that she makes $125,000 a year, and at the end of the day, it ain't shit they can do. Well, South Park Susan, you are absolutely wrong. Since the video went public, her employer, Spectrum Cable, fired her ass. Whew, karma's a bitch. She's an ugly bitch like her, but a bitch nonetheless. Listen, y'all gotta cut this shit out, man. Leave black folks alone. Man, we be minding our business, just being black on a daily goddamn basis, and y'all come with this bullshit. You deserve to get fired, and anybody else who does the shit that you do deserve to get fired as well. So, to keep in the same mode of, what's going on, talking about, elections and voting and government, I decided that this week in Black History, I will give you guys a couple of Black History facts with politics in mind. So, on this week, back in 1974, George Brown became the first black lieutenant governor in the United States for the state of Colorado. In 1968, Shirley Chisholm became the first black woman elected to Congress. She represented the Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn area back in 1968 in New York. Also, L. Douglas Wilder, and I remember this vividly, I was probably about 10, 11 years old. He became the first black governor in the United States for the state of Virginia. This is back in 89. Like, that's huge. The first black governor of the United States, and it happened in the South, no less. Huge. Also, you had Edward W. Brooke, He was elected the first black U.S. senator in 85 years back in 1966. Wow, he was a Republican back in Massachusetts. Now, we also had some very, very important inventors that was born during this time. Benjamin Banneker. I know a lot of you heard of Benjamin Banneker. He was an inventor, a mathematician, an astronomer. He was one of the original planners of Federal City, which is now Washington, D.C. Well, he was born 1731. He died in 1806. Go look him up. You'll see a lot of things that he touched. Also this week in Black history, the medical school at Howard University opened up with 8 students back in 1868. So we have had a lot of great people do a lot of great things in our history that we all should know about. Not just the big shit, but the small shit as well. We should know our history, and that's why I do what I do. This week in sports starts us down at the bottom of the map, New Orleans, where the New Orleans Saints signed ex-Cowboy receiver Dez Bryant to a 1-year contract. And man, you would have thought that the GOAT himself, Jerry Rice, found a fountain of youth with Jack Sparrow and decided to sign with the Saints. The way they was talking all that shit. Man, I'm telling you, they was already making plans for hotels in Atlanta for the Super Bowl, as well as getting permits for a ticker tape parade going down Bourbon Street. Now, I know New Orleans is known for gumbo, jazz, beignets, and black magic, but it ain't enough voodoo to make that shit happen. Slow it down. Now, over in Dallas, you have fans who have grown increasingly tired and frustrated of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott and his halter tops and decided to fill out a bandwagon application and join the Saints. Well, they went from We Them Boys to the Who Dat Boys. And I'm talking about they flip quick. They flip quicker than Judas did Jesus. They flip quicker than punk-ass Chauncey did O-Dog and Kane. Man, them niggas flip quicker than the quote-unquote real nigga on the first 48 who asked for that cigarette right before he tell every goddamn thing. But guess what? It was all for naught, because on the last play of practice, Dez Bryant went down with an apparent Achilles injury and he's out for the year. Shit, he went from Dez throw up the X to throw up the X-ray fast as a motherfucker. Hope to see you on the field again next year. Get well soon. Elsewhere in the NFL, on Thursday night, we had a highly anticipated game between two well-respected and very good teams. The Carolina Panthers, led by Cam Newton and his calf-bearing capri pants, faced off against the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by habitual line stepper and pussy grabber Ben Roethlisberger. Now, I thought this was going to be a very contested contest, full of highlights and lowlights, but man, this shit was a blowout. God damn. The Carolina Panthers lost 52-21 behind Ben Roethlisberger, 5 touchdowns. Come on, Carolina, what was you doing? Nigga, did you even get on the plane? I mean, god damn. Over in the NBA, Kyrie Irving, the Boston Celtics super all-star point guard, was fined $25,000 by the league for tossing the basketball into the stands. Now, if you don't know about the story, I'm sure you're thinking, man, he must have been mad, got into a fight with a nigga, something happened, so he let his frustrations build over. That ain't it. This nigga got mad because when they were playing against the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray scored 48 points on his ass. He dropped the whole 48, the first 48, the last 48, however you want to cut it, and Kyrie couldn't do nothing with him. So, in the waning seconds of the game, Murray, who decided, hey, I got 48, fuck it, I'm going for 50, shot a three-pointer and missed. And Kyrie didn't take too kindly about that shit. He got all in his feelings like Drake and Shaky. So, Kyrie snatched the ball, threw it in the stands, and walked off the court. Listen, man, don't be acting like that. Don't be a petulant child. If you don't want a nigga to score 50 on you, don't let him score 48. It's plain and simple. Play defense or shut the fuck up. Over in LA, the Los Angeles LeBrons,
Lakers signed recently released Phoenix big man Tyson Chandler the other day, and it paid immediate dividends because he was rebounding and playing defense all over the place in a highly contested game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, led by the man with the new knees, Derrick Rose, and his 31 points. Now, I ain't saying this put LA in the top of the Western Conference behind Golden State, of course, but I will say this: that acquisition allows them to play a different type of game. It allows LeBron, it allows Brandon Ingram, it allows Kyle Kuzma to not hold the big men on the opposing team. So this might be one of those signings that LeBron really needed, and it could usher LA into the next level of basketball. In other sports news, over in boxing, Floyd Mayweather, who many believe is one of the greatest top 5 fighters of all time pound for pound, recently signed on to participate in a bout over in Japan for New Year's Eve. Now, after flying over there and doing some promotional things and announcing the bout, he soon, and when I say soon, I mean next goddamn day, backed out of the fight. Now, I don't know why he did it, but after seeing footage of this guy Nakasawa, I would have backed the fuck out too. Listen, Floyd, I love you, man. You one of my favorite fighters of all time, but bruh, leave that shit alone. Go on to the house, sit down, and just live your life. Now, I don't know if money having more money problems or no money problems, but he need to just move the fuck on and leave the game alone. Enjoy retirement, bruh. Please. And finally, I would like to send my condolences to the family of an NFL pioneer, Mr. Wally Triplett. Now, he became the first black player to be drafted and appear in an NFL game. Well, the other day, he died at the age of 92. So, thank you for what you done for the game, and rest in peace, good sir. Now, this has been This Week in Sports, brought to you by Shade and Shit Talking and the fine folks over at Black with No Chaser. We will see you next week.
Oh, thank you.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.